Hey there, it's David, no recipe required, and it's barbecue, it's picnic day. Here at the Bollier household, we're going to do some burgers, dogs, and with it, we're going to do some coleslaw. I'm doing a Chipotle slaw here. Really easy to do. The dressing really is a kind of a standard dressing. I've got one of those cans of Chipotle with adobo sauce in it. We use the adobo sauce in there to offset kind of that sweet or that heat that comes from the chilies. We're gonna throw some apples in there. We'll give it some crunch with a little bit of nuts. Really easy to do. All the flavors come together nicely. Different textures, different flavors, some heat, some sweet. It's spectacular. Let's go ahead and show you how to get it done. All right, guys. So let's go ahead. We're gonna start making our dressing for our Chipotle slaw. And what I've got here is a can of Chipotle peppers. And what I'm really after is some of the sauce in there. If you want to take one of the peppers out and chop it up, go ahead and do it. But really, I want the flavor of that rich adobo sauce. Call that maybe 2 tablespoons in there. I don't really measure anything on this one. And if at the end of the day we need a little bit more dressing, we can always just add these ingredients to the dressing, make a little bit more. Really simple to do. About the same amount of mayo in there. And then I've got sour cream in here. I'm going to go about the same amount of light sour cream. And that's going to lighten it up. Let me just rinse my spoon. Some spicy brown mustard. Just about half the amount of any of those last 3 ingredients there. I've got the juice of a lime, half a lime, sorry, that we're going to squeeze in. And then I've got something buzzing in the background, that's just fine. This is a smoked paprika, which I love. This is going to give our dressing a nice smoky flavor. We're going to go a tablespoon in there. To balance out the heat, I've got some honey. Go a good tablespoon and a half, maybe 2 tablespoons. A pinch of salt. A good couple grinds of black pepper. And finally, a little bit of cider vinegar. This is the only one. This one, and actually the lime, is the one I'd be a little bit careful about going overboard. They're both quite tart and spicy. This is going to give me, that's probably 3/4 of a cup of dressing. We're going to mix it together. It's going to be a little bit spicy because of that chipotle. Might be a lot spicy. You can always add more if you want it hotter, or start with a little bit less if you're worried about the spice, and then add to it. We're going to mix it together. We're going to give it just a little taste. Oh, that is delicious. Creaminess from the mayo and from the sauce. Mine definitely has some kick to it. Bite from the mustard, from the vinegar, from the lime juice. And then sweetness and smoke from both the honey and that smoked paprika. So that's our dressing. We can pop this in the fridge while we chop up our veggies. Okay, so I've got a few garnishes, like some green onions, like some cilantro that we're going to come back to. Actually, like some sliced almonds to give us some crunch in our coleslaw. But what I also got is a big bowl here, and the core of our coleslaw is what I'm going to work on first. I bought some shredded carrot because they are quite good. I find using these is certainly just as good as doing it yourself, and a whole lot faster on the carrot. The other core of our coleslaw is going to be cabbage. Most of the time, the outside leaves of the cabbage are going to be pretty dirty and awfully kind of green. You're going to want to get rid of most of those outside leaves. There we go, that's good enough. And then if it's got this big root on it, you're going to go through, take the root off, give the thing a quick rinse, which we've got here, to get our dirt off. And then to chop this thing up, it's easiest, it's also necessary to work in pieces. So you're going to go through, right through the middle. I'm going to set that aside for a second. This piece here is the core. That's really tough, really woody. And we're just going to do a V-cut to get rid of it. So you go down at an angle, You work your knife in, you kind of be a little more careful than I'm being. Then you flip it over, you do the other side on your V-cut, and then that core comes right out. Flip it over. If you got a loose leaf like this, just toss it. Then the first few cuts come in at an angle, and then after those couple first cuts, you can put the knife straight and just start going down. And then these naturally just form these nice little shredded pieces of cabbage. I'm going to go ahead and finish the rest of this cabbage. I like to go kind of as thin as you can. Use a good sharp knife. There are machines like Cuisinart that'll do this for you too. And then we're going to come back and do some of the other kind of secondary ingredients. Okay, so I've got our cabbage chopped up. It's in the bowl over here, and I've got a couple peppers here. I'm doing a red and a green pepper. What I do on these kind of long peppers, cut around the top, not all the way through. Sometimes you pull the top off. Sometimes that piece will just come right out with the top. You want to remove the seed pod as best you can so you don't get all these seeds over. Then slice right through. If you got a big vein on it like that, go ahead and take the vein out, and then cut thin strips of the pepper. And this is going to add some really nice color and some really nice texture to our coleslaw. I've got a red one and a green one already done. If they're really long like this, feel free to just cut it in half. You want, strips similar in size to the cabbage strips that we just did. I'm going to finish doing these peppers, and then we're going to come back and keep doing our coleslaw. Okay, so we got our chopped peppers, which we're going to add to our bowl. I may have to actually switch to a bigger bowl. It's getting awfully filled. Our final kind of main ingredient here, and it's very optional, is apple. I like throwing in, cutting up the apple, kind of in the same shape. It blends in so people don't really see it. But then they'll get a bite of it and be like, whoa, that's not a piece of cabbage. It's a kind of nice sweet flavor. And what I'm essentially doing, I cut those slivers, then I go sideways, make a plank out of it, and then once I got those planks, I'm going to go and make, again, these same matchstick shapes called julienne pieces. I'm going to go ahead and do that with 2 or 3 apples. You can use your judgment, again, how much you like them, how much you don't like them. And then we're going to add those in as well. But actually, right before I do that, I'll show you how to keep them from turning brown on you. Okay, so I just got our apples chopped up in these little matchstick shapes. I'm going to throw them into a bowl. I seem to be grabbing small bowls today, but we will make it work. Now, apples left out will turn brown, but vitamin C or citric acid in a lemon or a lime will prevent them from oxidizing like that. So, that other half of lime that we did before, squeeze that over the apples, and then just toss them around and get them all nicely coated. That will keep them from browning. If you need a little bit more, squeeze a little bit more. And then once these are tossed, we're going to add them into our coleslaw. Alright guys, so I've given up on the smaller bowl. I'm going to the bigger one. We've got our cabbage in here, we've got our carrots, our peppers. Man, I'm not even sure this is a bigger bowl. We're going to get it in there. We're going to get our apples in there. I think I'm going to have to go 2 bowls. I'm definitely going to have to go 2 bowls. Alright, so we're going to go this bowl, and we'll just mix it around a little bit and combine it. Once you get all the ingredients, there we go. It's not exactly half and half, but we'll figure it out. I'm going to go ahead and lift one more big pile over. So I like to get in with my hands. There's no dressing on this yet, but the cabbage is kind of still, when you cut it up, it kind of stays together a little bit. And getting in there with your hands is going to break it up. And then I'm making a big mess. We're going to have to clean that up. Then I made, actually off camera, I did make a little bit more sauce because this cabbage was gigantic. We're going to pour it over our coleslaw. There's still a good amount in there. And I still find the best way to toss it is to get in there with your hands. You do got to make sure you wash your hands, obviously, before and after all the spice from that Chipotle. If you go rub your eyes or, you know, frankly rub something else, you're going to feel the heat for sure. So make sure you wash it well. This is a little bit overdressed, but that's fine. Remember, I got all this over here, which we're going to add and mix in together. I'm going to take the rest of that dressing, add it to my other bowl. And then I like to, once I get my hands cleaned out, actually I'm just going to taste it now because the hands are dirty. If you need to, add a little bit more seasoning. This one needs a little salt and pepper. If you find big pieces like that too, just pull them out. There's another one. Because they're not great for folks to eat. But a little bit more salt and a little bit more pepper in here once I get my hands clean. And we're going to be good to go. We'll come back after I get it all mixed together. Okay, so I washed my hands. I put salt and pepper in. We're going to mix it one more time to get everything coated. And then I like to make this a couple hours ahead of time, or make it to this point a couple hours ahead of time. Cover it, throw it in the fridge, and then we're going to come back and put our final garnishes, which is a little bit of cilantro, a little bit of green onion, and some toasted almonds. Okay, so one of our toppers for our, what do we call it, coleslaw, is going to be these slivered almonds. I like a little crunch in the coleslaw. And this is, what is this? This is 3.5 ounces. I probably got 3 ounces in the pan. I'm going to go over medium heat and turn that down. And just toast them until they get lightly browned on the sides. You do have to kind of keep moving them so they don't burn, or at least move them every 30 seconds or so. And then you can do this ahead of time, but we're not going to add them until we're ready to serve. Alright guys, so I've got my coleslaw here. It's been in the fridge. It's time to finish it off. I've got some green onions, which I'm going to chop up nice and fine, about a 1/4 inch or so, and get down to where you're getting all the greens on there. We're going to take those, toss them in, and the reason you do these herbs kind of at the last minute is so they don't wilt on you or get kind of all soppy. You want it to stay kind of fresh and clean looking. This is cilantro, and I'm just kind of taking the leaves off the top. There's a bunch of stems down there. We're not going to use the stems, and I'm not going to chop it super fine. I'm just going to give this a few chops to break up some of the bigger pieces. I still want to be able to see most of the leaves that are in there. There we go. I'm going to take that, throw it in there. We use a pair of tongs to give this all a little toss. And then once I get this mixed together, we're going to plate it up. Alright, so I did give my coleslaw one final taste, adjusted the seasoning. I added a little bit more salt and a little bit more pepper in there. I've got my serving bowl, which I almost always use a different bowl than my mixing bowl. I'm going to pile the slaw nice and high. There we go. Then I reserved, just a few of these, what do they call them? Cilantro leaves. And then finally, these are the toasted almonds that we did before. You just toss those around the dish, and people will dig in and get a little bit of that crunch of the almond, that creamy, spicy Chipotle slaw, and I think they're gonna love it. I'll see you next time on No Recipe Required. Alright, that was my Chipotle Coleslaw. Really simple to make. It was a nice combination of sweet, heat, you got the crunch in there, nice fresh vegetables. You can make it ahead of time. It's perfect, it's a perfect side. Go ahead, give it a try, let me know how it goes, and don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time.